Let's face it, buyers today are overwhelmed. They're bombarded with options. And a question that they'll often ask quite quickly is, how much does it cost? That's just an easy go-to. But here's the thing, the price is only one part of that decision. What customers really care about is value. So what does that mean? Well, that's the outcomes, the benefits, the impact the solution has for them. And that's an important part. It's them that define this. Our job is to work with them to work out what that is so that then we can position it. But if you go into the conversation about price, you're going to lose control. Focus on value.
You're listening to the Sales Today podcast, and I'm your host, Fred Copestake. On this podcast, we explore how sales professionals can develop a modern approach to winning business, the application of virtual selling techniques, how to create meaningful business relationships, and much more. Why not take our free collaborative selling scorecard to see how your sales approach suits today's environment? You'll find a link in the show notes.
And welcome to this episode of the Sales Today podcast with me, your host, Fred Copestake. Once again, a solo episode as we continue on this mini-series, which is breaking down the ethical model. That is the model that's the core of my book, Ethical Selling. Shorter episodes, just giving highlights of each of these elements. And today we are on the H of ethical, if you like, which is holistic value-centric approaches. So look, in sales, value is everything. If you're competing on price alone, you're in a race to the bottom. That's a race no one really wants to win, is it? So a value-centric approach shifts the conversation from cost to outcomes. So showing customers the measurable impact of the solution you can deliver. So let's dive into that then and focus on what it means to sell with this holistic value and how you can make this approach a way in which you go about applying your sales process. Let's face it, buyers today are overwhelmed. They're bombarded with options. And a question that they'll often ask quite quickly is, how much does it cost? That's just an easy go-to. But here's the thing, the price is only one part of that decision. What customers really care about is value. So what does that mean? Well, that's the outcomes, the benefits, the impact the solution has for them. And that's an important part. It's them that define this. Our job is to work with them to work out what that is so that then we can position it. But if you go into the conversation about price, you're going to lose control. Focus on value, you're going to shift their attention on to what really matters. And that's results. That's why they're going to buy. That's why they're talking to you. Yeah. We can show them the why behind the investment. Not just why it costs so much, kind of why that's the price we're coming up with, but why it is important to them. And so by going through that process, by having those discussions, we're positioning ourselves as the partner, not just a vendor. A lot of people talk about, wanting to partner, and, I have strong opinions on this. That's why I wrote the first book, Selling Partnering Skills. But ultimately, a lot of people do behave like vendors. They're just trying to flog stuff. But working alongside people, helping them make sense, we are in a completely different place. So that's what the holistic value-centric approach is all about. It's looking at that bigger picture, not just your product, not just your service. It's about how what you're doing fits into the customer's world and helps them to achieve their goals. So a couple of things that help us do this. Understand customer outcomes. Look, I've used that word a couple of times. I already want it kind of embedded in your brain. But this is kind of asking, what does success look like for them? What is it they're trying to achieve? And so then when we communicate value, we're communicating it in their language. How does it impact their bottom line, their productivity, the strategic goals, the stuff that they are actually caring about? And depending who you're talking to, there is likely to be something different that they're bothered about. So really, it's not one size fits all. It's understanding what it is for that person, that decision maker, that part of the decision making unit. And then if we can quantify value, again, it makes our job a little bit easier. So maybe a tool like an ROI, return on investment calculator, a case study, a success story, some kind of metric, something that we're going to say, hey, look, let's measure this stuff to show that this is where we're going to be, delivering value. It's almost like you're telling a story, if you like. Storytelling is quite a hot topic in sales, but that's what you're doing. You're setting this up. So rather than just selling a product, you're just painting that picture of what is it going to be like once that solution is in place for them. What's their life going to be like? So yeah, I mean, a little story. I've worked with a sales team who they sold software to manufacturers. Yeah, I do a lot of work with manufacturers and engineers, and this particular company was selling to them as well. Um, and what they used to do was they used to pitch a whole bunch of features, faster processing, better in integrations, and customers just weren't excited, didn't care. Yeah, speeds and feeds, not bothered. Why? They couldn't see the value. That was the point. But what we could do is we shift the focus, got them away from talking about the features to more talking about the outcomes. So by cutting your production time by 20%, this can save you £50,000 a year. By improving your efficiency, you can get products to markets 2 weeks faster. That's going to give you a competitive edge, set you apart. That's the sort of stuff that when they understood this, when they got it, they recognized the impact, they were far more excited. It wasn't really about the software. Now that the sales team I was working with, they hated it. And I say, look, it's not about your down. But when they start closing more deals and they realized that actually the conversations were more about that partnership and the way in which they were helping customers, not price, then yeah, they were a lot happier about it. And that's the power of this value-centric approach. So look, we'll go through 5. I'm always trying to make these little mini episodes powerful. So little 5 steps that we can go through to be more value-centric. So first up, ask outcome-focused questions. That moves you away from features and benefits for a start. Yeah. So questions like, what are your key goals in the next 6-12 months? Yeah. How do you measure success? What impact would solving this problem have on your business? All about them, all about what it is they're trying to achieve. Because then what we can do, we can tailor our value proposition. We're going to frame it around the solution, or frame the solution around the outcome that the customer cares about. Yeah, so rather than going, our software integrates on 20 different platforms and I don't care, it's like, you'll reduce your admin time by 10 hours a week. That's more likely to resonate if that is something that the person cares about. So we've already talked about using value metrics, ROI. So quantify that impact. ROI calculators, case studies, stories that have elements of the results that we've had for customers within them. And really that part 4 is tell customer stories, other people that you've worked with to achieve similar results. Stories work because they're more memorable. People can relate to them. And if we can build up a stock of these that we're able to deploy and use to help people understand why we can really make a difference for them, it's going to make a big difference for us. And just avoid the price trap. If customers are going to ask about it early, we can try to dodge it. So we can still say, hey, look, before I talk about cost, let's make sure it's the right solution. Let me understand more about what we're trying to achieve. I think we've got to be careful with that. That can wind people up. When we are so set on value stacking that we do not give any indication of price at all, that can be a bit dangerous. So if somebody's asking, we can give an idea, we can give an indicator. It should be on the website anyway. But what we're trying to do is focus on value so that the price is less of a sticking point, because they're going to see their return on investment. And that's why we're having the conversation. But don't let not giving a price become a blocker to having that conversation. That would be silly, that would be counterproductive. Um, so yeah, look, think about a holistic value-centric approach. It really means focusing on outcomes, not just features. If you think you've got this habit and you can just break that, the difference will be immeasurable. Yeah. So understand what success looks like for your customers. That will help you communicate value more clearly. That's when you position yourself as somebody who is there alongside them, helping them to get the results that they're looking for. You're not just another salesperson. So if you listen to any of these episodes, you know I'm putting a little challenge or little challenges in place at the end of each. Um, so again, I want to keep these super simple so they're easy to do and you can start to see the impact that they have. The challenge for this episode is in your next sales meeting, ask at least one outcome focused question. Find out what success really looks like for your customer and then tailor the conversation around that. When you focus in on value and you do that kind of thing, everything will change. Everything will change for you. You're just perceived as a different person, and where you go in the sales that you're managing, that just be way more successful. So yeah, short and sweet. Like I've said, thank you for joining me for this episode. In the next, we'll move on and talk about the I of the ethical model. So informed decision making, which is all about helping or empowering your customers to make confident and well-informed decisions, but without putting them under pressure. So if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with your team, leave a review, buy the book. But until next time, keep selling ethically.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Today podcast with me, your host, Fred Copestake. I hope you've enjoyed what you heard today. If you did, please get in touch and hit subscribe. And remember, you can take the collaborative selling scorecard for free to check out how your sales approach works in today's environment. You'll find it in the show notes.